Hello everyone, what's up and welcome back to another video. Today I will be discussing my top 12 favorites for the first half of 2024. If you are new here, this is a biannual thing that I like to do where I just discuss 12 of the books that I enjoyed for the first 6 months of the year. I don't know why that took me so long to figure out. This year I'm going to do it a bit differently. There was like one book extra that I really enjoyed, so I thought I'd add it to the list. Before we get started, please remember to like the video, subscribe, and comment down below what was maybe your top favorite of this year so far, and let's just jump right into the video. This was difficult. Okay, I have two books that I am completely obsessed over, and I cannot tell you which one between these two are my favorite. They are together, in their togetherness. At least they are different genres, so it does make sense. But let's just say the first book is The Crimson Moth. I really need to remember how to pronounce the writer's name because the surname, because I completely forgot. Anyway, short and sweet answer, this is a witch and a witch hunter romance. It's enemies to lovers to enemies, and I really enjoyed this book. Yes, it is YA, but I couldn't put this book down. I think I read it in a day. The banter between the two characters, together with the audiobook, was just so amazing. I really, really enjoyed it. There was also a part where I figured out who the bad guy in this situation was, but that didn't take away from everything because I love this book. It is action-packed. It is fast-paced. It just keeps you on your toes. I think it's also, you know, about the situation at hand and you're just waiting for the two characters to catch up and figure things out. The next one is Funny Story by Emily Henry. If you have been living under a rock and you're not sure what this book is about, it is about Daphne and Miles and their respective fiancés who have dropped them to date each other, I guess you can say, or to marry each other because they have been childhood best friends and both figured out they love one another on Daphne's fiance's bachelor party. So Daphne and Miles, they co-live because Daphne was kicked out of her house that she tried to build up with her fiance, and then Miles decides he's going to show her around the place because Daphne's ex-fiance has never done that and she feels kind of isolated in the town. She doesn't know anyone, and so she just goes on this journey with Miles. They end up fake dating because the ex-fiancés have sent them a wedding invitation to their wedding, and in a panic Daphne is like, oh yeah, I have a boyfriend, his name's Miles. I love this book. I love it. I adore it. I want to extract it from my brain to read it for the first time again. That's how much I love this book. I think the best way I can describe it, if you want the feeling of falling in love, this is the one for you. Emily Henry has such a nice way of describing how it feels to fall in love, how it's written on how to fall in love with a person. There's obviously betrayal, the third act breakup is there, but it is understandable in a sense. It is not great because miscommunication, but it is understandable. So yeah, loved it. Really, really loved it. Then of course we have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I also recently finished this, and this is a twist on the Hunger Games where we get a main character who doesn't have power in a world where everyone has power. And if you don't have power, you are sent to the Scorchers to be executed. But what ends up happening is she saves one of the princes in the kingdom, and then she's pulled into like a trial, which I forgot the word for it, where they are set out to test their magic, and once they are through the trial, they are crowned champions. But the plan is that one of the princes, who is going to become the enforcers, the plan is for him to win the tournament, and it ends up he falls in love with Payton, our main character, and he's trying to cook up a way on how to ensure that she wins the trials. Really love this book. It is typical YA dystopian / fantasy romantasy kind of thing, and it's just all around a good time. Loved it. You know, the hype is hyping around this book, and it's definitely worth the hype for me. If you like action-packed stuff, it's really enjoyable. The only thing I can say about this, there were 3 trials that they had to go through, and before each trial there was a ball. Then it was the trial, then it was the cooling down period. It kind of got repetitive after a while because I was like, listen, I know what you're here for. So it was basically just building up characters, building up the plot, and it got slow after a while, and I was just like, I want the enemies to lovers. I want the pining after one another. Look, we got pining. We got a lot of pining, especially during the training sessions, but I just felt like that part was a bit, like, can we get a move on? Can we explain it quicker? There's also, I think, things that people will get annoyed about, and I think it's described as a Wattpad kind of description where you say his eyes were blue, period. His eyes were the color of a sky on a winter morning, period. Or his eyes are grey, ice grey, or slate grey, pierce through your soul grey. And I'm just like, okay. Overall, still enjoyable. The next book is by a local South African author, and it is called Chains of Gwindor by Joan Campbell. I read this book during either Spin the Wheel chooses how many hours I read. I think it was that one. And I read this book in 2 days. I loved it. I really, really loved it. I'm coming to the conclusion that I actually do love YA. It's just some books are better than others. But this is also typical YA where the girl who doesn't want to be a chosen one ends up finding something that she wasn't supposed to find, and it just unravels a whole mystery of who can you trust, who can't you trust. This is also a multiple POV where you are in the life of different kinds of characters. They can be good or bad, and you just watch how they have an impact on this world. Overall, enjoyable. I really loved it. The character growth was exceptional. There is just the romance fell flat for me because it was kind of in a way told me that I had to believe these two liked each other, and I didn't see it, and it ended on such a wild cliffhanger that I really need to finish the second and the third book. And I think this is like the first South African book that's been on my list, so kudos to you, Joan Campbell. This beautiful book. I just love the cover as well. Anyway, even though it's super shiny and is blinding me, I think the next book nobody would be surprised by. But it is House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. I think I read this in March. Also read it in about 2-3 days. Could not put this book down. If you're unfamiliar with the series, it is basically an urban fantasy about a girl named Bryce whose best friend was killed, and a year later she is put on like the investigation team because the way her best friend was killed the year before, the MO has started up again. There's a very important meeting going on in the city in a few weeks, so she is then joined by the task force to try and find who is behind these killings. And when I tell you who is behind it, yeah, shocker. Anyway, so this is the third book. I don't know if it's going to continue. It kind of ended on a, oh yeah, it's a happy ending sort of way. So I don't know what we are going to have in store for the fourth book, if something's going to happen, if worlds are going to collide. I think we have to wait 2 years because Sarah J. Maas is now busy with the next Akatar book, so who knows. Anyway, so yeah, just really enjoyed this. I love the descriptions in these books. Even though the paragraph jumping was really jarring for me in the beginning, I love this book. All around a good time, and it's my favorite. Then we move on to the books that I do not have a physical copy of. Why? I don't know. It is what it is. The first one is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I recently finished this book and I really, really enjoyed it. It's basically a human in a vampire world, and this human is partaking in trials so that she can have power to protect her adoptive father as well as the humans in this world. But things happen during the trial that makes her question her relationship with her father and the things that occurred to her while she was still younger. I really enjoyed this book. It was difficult to get into. If you're going to listen to this book, I do suggest, you know, the undivided attention, because if you just miss one small thing, it can really impact the way that you see this book. So that's something that happened to me, and I had to take a break and start over because I wanted to love this book, but it just took a while to get to it. But yeah, really enjoyable. Anything with vampires I actually do love, especially if it's a new kind of lore around the vampires, so I really enjoyed that part of the book. As usual, the banter between the characters was immaculate, and this is more like rivals to enemies to rivals to lovers to enemies. I don't know if rivals and enemies can be classified the same way. Who knows? That's basically what this story gives off. Then we have The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and this is about a girl who inherits a magical apartment from her aunt, and then she falls in love with a guy 7 years in the past, and how their worlds collide in the future, and how different he is from the guy she met in the past and the guy who she's now talking to in the future. She is in love with the past one and not the present one. If that's confusing as hell, I'm sorry. Ashley Poston has this magical realism around her stories, and I just love it. The Dead Romantics was also very interesting because I didn't see that ending coming. I really thought it was going to be a sad ending. It's not. And The 7-Year Slip is also, it's just amazing. Wonderful writing, beautiful writing. Anything Ashley Poston writes, I would pick up because just damn, it's wonderful. Then we have When You Had Power by Susan K. Quinn, or Susan Key Quinn, I'm not sure. But this is basically a dystopian story about the world that relies on green energy to function. And our main character goes to an island where there is issues around generating energy. And while she investigates this, it results in her life being in danger. What I like about this book, it kind of reads like a novella. It's weird when people say that, like, what do you mean? It just reads fast. It's short. I think it's under 200 pages. And the audiobook is 4 hours long. So if you speed it up, it's 2 hours long if you're just sitting there listening. Because the book is so thin, it's fast-paced, you want to know what's happening, you want to know what's happening now. And it ended on a cliffhanger. So just what? Obviously, I didn't continue with this. I probably should have, because if each book is 200 or just under 200 pages, I can easily fly through these books. But it's just so gripping. And I think the next book is not going to follow our main character, but we are going to follow her from the sidelines of the next character. Eventually, I think all of them are going to be groped in together into this big mystery. Then we have Fathom by Eliza Chan. I did a whole video on this where I explained how I love this book, but this book was just immaculate. It's about sea creatures called Fathom. It's kind of dystopian, but it's also a crazy retelling spin on The Little Mermaid, and it was just so good. All of these books are so good, but this book was so good. I went into this book thinking I wasn't going to love it at all. Like, I thought it was going to be, yeah, it's okay. And then things continued to happen. Secrets were involved, betrayal was involved, and it was all just so messy. And I love this book so much. Count how many times I said I love this book so much in this video. Then we have A Dance of Stars and Ashes by Nisha J. Tully. If you've been on this channel since January, you would know I love the series. I love the writer. She's just so good with her words. It is exceptional reading these books. I have twice now received the ARCs. There's a third book coming out because it is a core trade. Can I just show you how the cover looks? It looks so beautiful. Anyway, so for Dance of Stars and Ashes, this is the second book in the Night Fire Core Trade series. The first one is A Heart of Night and Fire. I almost forgot that. And it's basically about this girl who has been trapped in this cottage for around 18 to 21 years. And then when she finally gets to escape, she plans to go to the city where she can learn magic, where she can, you know, just be herself. And then she ends up realizing that whatever blight or darkness is around this town is actually attached to her, and she has to deal with the after effects of it. Fast-paced, action-paced. It is also South Asian inspired, and just a description of the clothes that the people wear, the food that the people eat is just so magical. I really, really enjoyed this. And if you like Sarah J. Maas's books, you might also like these because it's on par with that books. Then we have Spitting Gold by Carmela Locus. I read this April-ish, and this is about two sisters who con people and say that they are extortionists or that they can see ghosts or something along those lines. And something happened in the past that made them decide not to do this anymore, but then the one sister's estranged sister comes back and she's like, one last hurrah so that we can get money from these people because I need money. And it ends up that there are deeper secrets involved in why the sister wants her older and estranged sister to work for these people. And it also has a mystery element to it as to what is happening in this house that they are trying to figure out who the poltergeist is. I don't want to say a lot about this book because I feel like if I dive deeper into it, it's going to spoil it. It is also set in the 1800s, I think around there. So it's very historical based, but it's also very mysterious. There's one question I still have regarding some of the characters, something that happened to the sister's mom that I was like, are we going to get closure? Or is that just thrown into the air? Like, you decide what happened. But I think I know what happened, but it's never clarified what happened. I have questions. It's also a standalone, unless there's going to be another book that links these two. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Just an enjoyable read if you like historical fiction, historical fantasy, mystery. Then we have Starling House by Alexia Horo, and this is basically a gothic-y kind of story about this girl who is being haunted by this house. And one day she decides to inspect it, and the owner of the house comes out and chases her away. But the following day she's like, no, I can't, I need money, so can I just clean the house for you? And he's like, yeah. And while that's happening, someone keeps asking her to get inside information of this house because they want to destroy whatever this house is doing so that they can overtake the economy or the monopoly in the town. And everyone says Starling House, that has a lot of starlings, the birds, is very creepy, and you know, it has a lot of serious mysteries and stuff. I love the gothic-y romance. Oh, not the gothic-y romance. The gothic feel it gives. It's also, I think it will be a very good story to read during spooky season. If you want to give that a try, it's got this ominous gothic feel. And then the last book is Happy Place by Emily Henry, and this is basically about two characters who split, but they never told their friends, and their friends invited them on a last hurrah at a holiday house at Maine, and they decide to fake date until the end of this vacation, where they will tell their friends. And what transpires is these two just going at each other the whole time. You also don't know why they broke up. It's a continuous mystery, because the one character feels like she messed up while the other character is just like closed door the whole time. He just doesn't want to tell her why he broke up with her, and he's the one who initiated the breakup. It's also very on par with Emily Henry. It stirs the emotions a bit, especially because you get flashbacks of how these two actually met and how they fell in love. It's a beautiful story. And yeah, if I rank it between Funny Story and Happy Place, I would say Funny Story is above, Happy Place is right under it. I still haven't read the rest of the books, but I definitely would. And I think those are all the books on the list. I think that's 13. It's a bird just chilling on our washing line. Anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe. And I don't know what I'm just saying. I'll see you guys in the video next week. Bye.